Good afternoon. I would like to start by thanking the conference organizers for hosting us under the current circumstances, and all of you for listening to this presentation. My project on Blumental's approach to Yiddish writing, which he committed himself to recovering early after the war, was initiated during my postdoctoral stay at the École d'Études en Sciences Sociales as a member of the French-German collective research project directed by Judith Lioncon and Aurélia Kaliski. Today, I will present some preliminary findings incorporating recent research exchanges with historian Catherine Stoll, as well as Alan Astro's New English translation of a poem found by Nachman Blumental in the ruins of Chelmno. To both Catherine and Alan, my sincere gratitude. Work undertaken by the above-mentioned collective resulted in the donation of Nachman Blumental's full archives to the IVO in 2019. Born in 1902, Nachman Blumental graduated in philosophy and philology from Warsaw University. A teacher, Zamler, and journalist in Poland, he survived the Holocaust in the Soviet Union, while his son and wife were murdered in Poland in 1943. Blumental became the first director of the Jewish Historical Institute in Warsaw in 1947, successor institution to the Central Jewish Historical Commission established in Lublin in 1944 by survivors with the aim of documenting the history of the Holocaust in Poland. Let us begin with what I deem Blumental's categorical imperative regarding the search for the writings left behind by Holocaust victims, as argued in the book Schmuesen wegen der jiddischer Literatur unter der deutschen Okkupatie, published in Buenos Aires in 1966. What we found after the war is only a small fragment of what was created at the time and was probably lost. Maybe more will turn up subsequently. We must never lose hope. We must always search, and we'll never be sure that there aren't treasures somewhere that we don't yet know about. And conscience will torment us forever because we neither collectively nor individually did our duty to the end. So part of what was lost perished through our fault. Blumental's interest in such writings began immediately after the war and never ceased. Collecting, deciphering, and interpreting these writings were a significant part of Blumental's multifaceted scholarly path. Schmuesen compiles articles published by Blumental over 2 decades, revised by the author. Some first appeared, fully or in part, in different Yiddish journals. The search and collecting of Blumental's articles, both those included and not included in the 1966 anthology, is still ongoing. The volume consists of 11 chapters distributed into 5 parts. Even though not systematically organized, the first 5 chapters include theoretical and methodological remarks, as well as some definitions and classifications, whereas the study of specific cases starts in chapter 6. Blumental's sources include published pieces, testimonies of survivors with whom he had been in personal contact, and texts collected by him or which came into his hands during his work at the Commission. Nachman Blumental developed an original definition of literary criteria regarding the recovered writings. I've already said once that Treblinka, Sobibor, and in this case Chelmno, are literary criteria. It's enough for us to know that a certain work was composed in a death camp by a person who was undergoing the greatest deprivation on the brink of death, and who in fact didn't survive, for us to regard it as a great masterpiece. It awakens in us Jews, or indeed in all those who by chance saved themselves from the flood, a host of associations of thought, an enormous wave of emotion, and at the same time a kind of moral uplift that comes from the knowledge that even in hell we have found sparks of humanity, or more than that, of some suprahumanity, as rarely can a true work of art achieve. Based on such criteria, Blumental's approach to the writings could be preliminarily described as narrative. Guiding himself with the content provided by the writings themselves and known historical facts, Blumental intended to narrate the journey possibly made by both texts and authors during the war, and to recreate in narrative terms the precise conditions under which the texts might have been composed or arrived to the place where they had been found. This included recourse to imagination to fill in the gaps, a practice that we may deem an informed mode of imagining. Blumental's style was systematically ironic, and this enabled the reader to keep constant distance from the Nazi deeds depicted. I will now refer to a case study included in Chapter 6 of Schmuessen, in which Blumental presents a poem found in the ruins of the Chelmno extermination camp. An early version of the text was published in Kiem in 1948. When compared with the 1966 chapter, we see that Blumental kept working on deciphering the recovered writing and filling in lacunae. In his ironic references to the death camps, Blumental never let readers naturalize the horror, as will become clearer from this description of the almost supernatural moment of discovery of the material. And the time came after the liberation, when the Polish government took an interest in this side of death, and an examining magistrate began to uncover the truth. They started digging in the piles of garbage that remained, in the dark graves, and found a great multiplicity of things, around 12,000 rusty spoons, half-burned personal documents, photographs, and other household items. In short, everything that can be found in reality in every German death camp. They developed their style. And then I had the opportunity to look at the pile of old papers and the mountain of rusty candlesticks, scissors, and knives. I looked at the old papers. Most of them were impossible to read. Burnt, broken. You could only catch a word, a few words, a name in German, Polish, sometimes Yiddish. All of a sudden, I discovered 3 small rolls of paper with yellow stains and rust, with holes in some parts. However, the writing was almost completely legible, drawn in chemical blue ink. And I shuddered. A song, or perhaps a whole poem, 5 pages written. The content of the poem wasn't important. Who had written it wasn't important either. The very fact of having found a Yiddish poem in the Chelmno death camp was so extraordinary that we remained paralyzed, as if before something sinister, inhuman. As we learned from Katrin Stoll's ongoing research, the Polish expedition, the Chelmnocide, briefly referred by Blumental in the above quotation, took place on May 26, 1945, and was ordered by the judge Władysław Bednarz. Staff members of the Central Jewish Historical Commission took part in the expedition, as we may see in this photograph. Hence, we may suppose that the finding of the poem took place on that precise date in a situation similar to the one depicted in this second photograph of the expedition. Titled Pferdmejan, Carrots for Horses, the poem is dated February 27, 1942, in Hohensalza. This geographical name corresponds to the Polish name Inowrocław. It likely refers here to a place of forced labor located within both the homonymous district and region of Hohensalza. This was one of the 3 Polish regions incorporated by Germany to the Reich. The locality of Hohensalza was around 100 kilometers away from the Chelmno death camp. The poem has been rendered into English by Alan Apps. In the still and modest fields near Hohensalza grew carrots for horses, calmly, contentedly. Minding their own business, they knew they were just horse fodder. No lofty aspirations had they, to be served on dainty dishware, to grace aristocratic tables, to sate or refresh the delicate of stomach, as an ingredient for Lekach, Kugel, or Zimes. They took issue with no one, they had made peace with their fate, created as simple foods, destined for horse bellies, they multiplied on this earth. One morning at sunrise, the carrots awakened in astonishment. They saw a great crowd moving in close ranks, with picks and spades, implements of all sorts, working, digging up, and pouring clay, stone, and earth. Freight trains pulling, their whistles sounding afar. This human multitude is watched by brutal guards, who insult them, beat them to a bloody pulp. The carrots watch stupefied, uncomprehendingly. What kind of work is this? What's the purpose? The carrots had grown broad and tall, sporting their green tops with pride. Soon they sensed themselves being plucked. They felt the bite of human teeth and wondered, what's happened here? We were goodies for cattle, and now humans, haughty and clever, greedily gobble us up and fight over us. Everyone wants some more. How things have changed! They heard these human beasts talking. What else could result from terrible wars that had spread their bloody wings over the world, sowing hatred, want, and pestilence? When hungry, you don't think twice about biting into carrots meant for horses. The carrots rejoiced at having become such an important commodity, variously eaten and prepared, tastier than cakes and pies, gathered in the face of severe prohibitions. They are smuggled into the camp under the nose of strict guards. In the dark of dawn, in the dark of night, across barbed wire, they're gobbled up, half-rotten, roasted. The threat of being hanged or shot frightens no one, neither does the whipping of bare bodies. Executions keep no one from stealing sacks of carrots, and whoever brings them from the storeroom earns respect, consideration. He is crowned a true hero, a brave fellow, and for such wonders the carrots, each in turn, thank in fervent prayer not only the Creator of the world, but also that infamous cruel leader, the loser, the so-called bearer of European culture, who has flooded the world with his venomous slime, that modern tyrant of Amalekite descent, who has his people graze on ersatz and poison, that Samael, who creates hells on earth and seeks to rob out the Israelite nation. Because he has raised the carrot so loftily, they sing his fulsome praise. Upon hearing this, the devil, scoffing, breaks out into cynical laughter. Get a load of who thinks he's my rival. Just let me get my hands on him. Let's go after that big shot. I'll grab him with my hooves, as is my wont. His diabolical majesty himself stands on the lookout. Who knows how much longer it can take? If Mephisto could defeat the great Goethe, he'll also catch the slayer of a comrade in his net. Blumental provides linguistic, historical, and literary comments to the poem, which I can further develop in our discussion session. Blumental's intent to reconstruct the possible journey of the author of the poem and the text itself until their arrival in Chełmno is narrative in nature. A young man is deported from the Lodz ghetto to work. What does he take with him? A notebook and a pencil. At this time, at the end of 1941, the Chełmno death camp began to operate. In January 1942, larger transports set off from Lodz, this time for the slaughter, over 10,000 people. One heard about it, and there was already talk of a terrible death but not everyone believed it. In the end, our poet is also deported from the Hohensalza labor camp to Helm. And what does he take with him to this side of death? His poems. In a recent exchange regarding the Helm recovered writings, Katrin Stoll has remarked that these are not mentioned in Blumental's Polish writings regarding the expedition to Helm, nor in a Yiddish report elaborated by Blumental and Kermisch for the Commission. This fact suggests that the work of the expedition oriented to collecting judicial evidence of Nazi crimes, and Blumental's interest in recovered Yiddish writings operated as separate domains in his research agenda. He likely perceived this work as a matter of Jewish interest only. Moreover, even within the Jewish readership, Blumental probably needed to convince more than one that Helno was a literary criterion in itself. Thank you very much.